Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth, the study of truth, and opposite of that is mythology, which means science of fake, lie, or imagination, or study of fake, lie, imagination. I have very, very special guest. I'll keep the intro short. You all know. Let's welcome Shri Abhijit Iyer Mitra.
Ciao a tutti.
Abhijit is in Italy. Tell me something. What is the Italian politics all about nowadays? Because earlier when I was there, they were really beating up Bangladeshis. Why the Bangladeshis are coming?
No. They're not beating up anyone. But Italian politics has always been a shit show, right? So it's great fun. I think my favorite time in Italian politics was, when I think it was Bettino Craxi or Andreotti. Francesca, when Tangentopoli was under Bettino Craxi, no? Yes. So there was the whole Tangentopoli scandal, which was fantastic. I like scandal. And the other thing I really liked was when this porn star, very famous porn star called Cicciolina, got elected to parliament. And, she used to remove her bra and rub it against the mic on the in the Senate or the lower house. I forget what she was elected to. What was she elected to? The upper house, the lower house?
It was lower house.
Yeah, lower house. So she used to do all this. Yeah, so Italian politics is great fun, you see. There's none of the kind of crap that you get in India or America, you don't get here. It's just, they're good fun people having fun. Even when they're not, even when they're nasty to each other, it's great fun.
It's today the show is really international, and that to two Europe and USA. I call US as also the European colony. So I'm from San Diego, and you're from Italy. Which city is that?
Rome.
Rome. Oh, you're in Rome. Okay, Rome. I've been married. Okay, now there are 7 layers of Rome. People say 7 layers of Rome.
7 cities of Rome.
7 cities, and
well, not just the 7 hills of Rome. Campidoglio. I forget now.
7 hills.
Aventine, Campidoglio. I forget now. Campidoglio is not a hill; it's something else. But anyway, the 7 hills of Rome. But have you noticed all these things? The 7 hills thing is very common. 7 hills in Rome, 7 hills in Tirupati. Constantinople has 7 something. The 7 number kind of keeps repeating.
I've been to at least Rome so many times. I know the streets very well. So if you go to Pantheon, have you been to Pantheon there yet or no?
Agrippa's Pantheon.
Yeah, Pantheon. If you go, then the guide will tell you there are 7 cities beneath under it. That's what they tell you usually.
7 hills, not 7 cities. There's the cities is there's just Rome, and Rome is what you get to see. It's eternal. It's an imperial city. You can just tell. When you go to Delhi, you can tell it's a shithole compared to Rome or even Istanbul. Well, Istanbul and Rome are truly grand from every sense of that word. And that's when you come to Delhi, you're like, what kind of a fucking shithole have I landed up in?
So when I was in Pantheon, near Pantheon, there was a thrift store over there, and she had a lot of old Krishna deities. I asked her, are you owned by Sonia Antonio Mino? Because I thought that she's sending all the...
No. So there's lots of these hippies and drug junkies out here too. So it's fun. Yeah. Anyway, let's get down to talking about fun stuff.
Yeah. So when we talk about the global politics now and the Qatar snub to India, and what are you seeing internationally? What is the reaction right now? People are shocked that Qatar is doing this to India.
No. So see, all of this starts off because this is the standard response of this government. It refuses to deal with the situation right at the beginning. And it should have just gone out, arrested Zubair and said that you deliberately tried to paint a target on a woman. Said there wasn't any blasphemy because she was quoting exactly from the book. Okay, now since when did quoting from the book become blasphemy? So they've decided to go after her. That bastard should have been thrown in jail then. This is not the first time he's caused problems like this and painted targets on people's heads. The last time the court decided, oh, no, he didn't know what his fellow co-religionists would do. He knew exactly what they would do, and they're still not doing anything. So the person to blame out here in all of this is Modi. Because see, people make out the case that Modi is malign. He's a malignant, nasty character. He's not. He's just an extremely incompetent fellow who was really not suited to becoming anything more than a tea salesman or a pakoda seller, or at best a chief minister, if at all that, in a very small state which was already heavily industrialized and very rich. Alas, there's much to be said about both the Peter Principle and the Peter Principle, where you rise to your level of incompetence, and Occam's razor. So that is, alas, what it is.
Now, when you compare Biden's incompetence with anybody else's competence, so where do you?
No. Biden is not incompetent. Biden has degenerative diseases. That's a different matter. See, we shouldn't compare incompetence with a degenerative disease. A degenerative disease is not your fault. It's something that happens to you. It's really quite sad. You can't come out of it. And it's actually really cruel watching him, the way he gets attacked over things for something that's really not his fault. Okay, and because when the president is in the throes of a degenerative disease and the vice president is hated and sidelined, then you'll have all the power factions within the party trying to take over. What's happening here is different. All the power is centered into a micromanager. And, there isn't a single management philosophy that will tell you that micromanagement is good. Micromanagement is destructive from the viewpoint of every single philosophy. Even if your micromanager is very, very good. But in this case, you have micromanagement by somebody who's clearly, the only real education he had was the amount of hydration that chickpea flour requires to be fried in hot oil, and the temperature of water when the tea and milk is put into it. Alas.
Foodie talking. Okay, now the Abhijit, you are in a conference and you're meeting many people, and you must be also, I'm not as well versed in strategic things like you are. Therefore, I'm asking. So suddenly the Ukraine news has disappeared off of American media. Suddenly, it's now there. It's on the second page or third page, or not even, no shows are being there. And Tulsi Gabbard is coming up very strongly on all these things, and she's talking about spiritualizing America. Now, why do you think the Ukraine news has suddenly disappeared? You and I have been discussing for weeks actually on this one.
Look, I don't think it's disappeared. It will keep coming back as and when required. Because, the thing is, you essentially need the distraction of a foreign war to divert as and when required. Right. So it will come back. The next time you see another big price rise happen, they'll again start talking about Ukraine or something big. I'm sure, I bet you the next time a massacre happens in Ukraine, it'll be timed with a price rise in America, a gasoline price rise or something like that.
No, I was connecting to the primaries. Now, June 7th is a primary here. And suddenly the Ukraine news is nowhere.
I'm sure, I bet you there's going to be some kind of atrocity on June 7th.
Well, I know that it's a whitewash for many people, a party actually. So how is Italy has a very close connections with US and most of the economy. Is the Italian economy dependent on the US for many things, or is?
I think all the G7 economies are heavily dependent on the US, right? It's a Western trading system where they're so closely interlinked with each other that getting rid of any one of the G7 would be virtual suicide for all the other countries. You look at Canada and America. Everybody thinks of Canada as the small partner in all of this. You think of Canada just wiped off the map one fine day. The whole of the northern industrial economy of the United States would just almost collapse. So these things there's a reason that the G7 is a collective decision-making body. And it's that level of integration is what forces everybody to go along with the common foreign policy, whether they like it or not.
See, does the Russia fears Russia is a new scarecrow for G7? Does it feature a lot in your conferences also there as Russia as an element there?
No, I just open my mouth and start praising Russia, and then they don't want to stop talking about Russia. I don't know why. Like I've always had this thing, where I lay out my case. I lay out the case why, people who live in glass houses really shouldn't be throwing stones at other people's houses. And they just shut up, because the moment you start bringing up Kosovo or Libya and things like that, they don't want to take the discussion any further.
In 2017, Saudi Arabia declared Qatar as a terrorist nation, 27 UAE and Saudis. And
Quite
2021,
accurately, by the way.
and 2021, they withdrew it. There was a peace treaty now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so now the things still back on track, or still the MBS has some grudges against Qatar?
Look, they're kind of back on track, but that political trust that is lost is never coming back. They're kind of tolerating each other, but you never know when it's going to sort of split again. Depends on what the issue is going to be.
Abhijit, I recently heard with couple of news channels as well as my articles I read that the Kashmiri and the militancy in India is partly funded by the Qatar's oil revenues. Do you think it's right?
Partly, almost entirely, because you see, Qatar uses Turkey as a front. They're very smart. They don't want to get all these schmucks back to Qatar. So what they do is they use Turkey as the launching pad. So you look at all the money that Turkey is theoretically giving to Pakistan. Most of it comes from Qatar. It gets diverted from Qatar. So that's one source. The second big source is the Khalistani funding, because once upon a time it used to be Pakistan that was rich, that was relatively rich, that was going around telling the Khalistanis, "We'll give you money, you go kill and bomb and whatnot." These days, it's Khalistanis who are super rich in Canada and the UK and places like that, Italy also, by the way, saying, we're rich, we're not willing to die, but you people go die for us. And so they give you money to go kill yourself. So yeah, it's multiple sources of funding.
So in the case of Qatar, you very clearly have said it right now. So in the case of Qatar, like can Indian government, they must, if you are knowing it, Indian government must also be knowing it. Don't you think they can take a strict action against Qatar for terrorism funding? Or should they want to take it? Do they want to take it? Or?
Tell me, do you think India has the testicular fortitude for anything? Just last week, you saw our own. Some people compare him to Napoleon's foreign minister Talleyrand. Some people compare him to the Austrian foreign minister, the Habsburg foreign minister Metternich. So our Metternich, Talleyrand, John Foster Dulles, Henry Kissinger, all thrown into one. Jaishankar was in talking to all these conferences in Europe, saying, we're such a great country, we can stand up on our own, we make our own policy choices, etc., etc., etc. All it required was one to start off. Now there are a total of 15, but all it required was one diplomatic protest for a so-called nuclear power, emerging power, next superpower, Vishwa Guru, whatnot, to come crumbling down. Look at the way France at least is a permanent member of the Security Council. But you look at a tiny country like Denmark, the lengths they're willing to go to protect their citizens' rights and freedom of speech. And then you look at the government of India that talks so big about itself, and it turns out to be a hot air balloon in the end. I have never seen a country more weak and castrated. I think the exact word for India, it is not Hindustan, it is Castratoistan.
No, you're so right. Such a succumbing to a small, tiny nation like that. So one question.
And even the diplomatic protest could have been handled differently. We could have just gone and said, look, this lady said this, she was quoting from a book. Some troublemakers have decided to make this into a blasphemy thing. It clearly isn't. You watch the clip and you tell me what was said that was blasphemous.
They did not even check.
They're so illiterate. The MEA is so illiterate because remember, the MEA is essentially single exam pass wonders. If you think you know everything after passing one single exam, well, best of luck to you. But this is, and see, the problem also was the kind of bluff and bravado that they'd been displaying before this in Europe. their Lord and Master Jaishankar. So what did you expect? I'm sorry to use this analogy, but if you have a tiny penis, you should keep quiet. You can't go around telling people that your penis, if you take it out of your pant, reaches the moon. And then when you're actually asked to deliver on your promise, it ends up being that it's probably the size of my little finger.
Yeah, coming to the false bravado, I'll clearly say that because, and you actually gave the right suggestion that this is a direct quote. Read it out. Say this is in your book, and this is what is being told there. And the action which has been taken against that person has really enraged most of the Indians. So do you think it might affect in the long term by 2024 in the elections also?
No, because you know why? See, this was a win-win for the BJP. Because no matter how much the BJP keeps throwing Hindus under the truck, you'll keep voting for the BJP because you're too scared of the alternative. So, essentially, the BJP has turned the Hindu into a condom. The Hindu today is literally been turned into a bigger brand than Durex by the BJP. Durex or whatever your largest selling brand of condoms are, pick by country and coast.
So there are the Russian oil. So do you think there is an oil angle to that why Qatar acted this way? And we all know that Qatar acts.
Look, this was natural. Look, anything that you hear about blasphemy, they're going to get upset and they're going to protest.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, they don't protest when you can lock up 2 million Muslims in concentration camps in Xinjiang, they won't open their mouth. But the moment you start doing something that they interpret as blasphemy, they do open their mouth. Okay. You can do what you want to the Muslim, you can't do anything to the Prophet. Now, even there, unlike, say, for example, Yilan's Posten, which ran the Muhammad cartoons, or Charlie Hebdo, which ran other cartoons, where there was an intent to offend. This wasn't even offensive. It was literally quoting from the book. And what happened? Nothing. They could have also pointed to the fact that the editor of Qatar's largest newspaper was insulting Hindus left, right, and center. Did they even counter-protest? No. So I keep saying this. You see, the MEA has some of the most brilliant people I know on the one hand. And on the other, collectively, they're the biggest bunch of turds you'll ever come across.
No, that is true. There is nobody who speaks about Hindus in the world. And to look up to Indian government to speak for Hindus is like the breaking your head against the wall. It never happens. And we have become the true custodians of secularism. You are in Italy right now. Italy is a church state. US is a church state, Judeo-Christian background. There is nowhere Hindus can be politically protected internationally. It's not there.
Yeah.
And so in your viewpoint, isn't this a time, and I'm just asking a random question, that Hindus, I firmly believe that in future, US will be the only country which will speak for the Hindus, not India. Because
US and possibly UK.
And the Qatar has...
do you remember when Bhutan genocided its population, its Hindu population? India didn't open its mouth. It was the UK and America that opened its mouth and gave them refuge. They all went to the UK and to America and to Australia. Do you remember when Indians got kicked out of Uganda by Idi Amin in the 70s, was it? 60s or late 60s or early 70s? It was the UK that absorbed all of them, not India. Nehru threw them to the wolves. Okay. Fine. At least in Sri Lanka, we opened our mouth. But in Malaysia, where the Tamil Hindus are being persecuted, do you ever open your mouth? No. Under this government, do they ever open their mouth? No. See, Hindus, you have to understand, are an abused cow. Everybody says we worship cows in India. Indian cows are treated the worst. They keep getting mated so that they produce milk. And they die at 1/3 of their life expectancy. And if they don't die, once their milk production is over, they get sold off to the Muslim butcher. Okay. So this kind of hypocrisy and two-facedness of the Hindu runs deep.
So do you think that the RSS also has a role to play in that? Because sometimes the RSS leaders release conflicting statements and which also weaken the stance of the Hindus globally. And but there are traditionalists,
See,
traditionalists.
we have to separate the BJP from the RSS. Okay, I never criticize the RSS because first, they're a voluntary organization. They always come anytime something bad happens. They're the first people to come and provide help and things. They don't ask for your vote. They don't even ask for your sympathy. Okay, but the BJP buggers, they're the ones that come and ask for your vote. So it depends on what I want to do with them. Do I want to give them my vote or do I want to spit in their face? You should never criticize people who have not asked for your vote, who have not asked you for anything. They are selfless and they have a lot of views that I disagree with, but I will always fundamentally respect them because they're not asking us for favors.
That's right.
Okay. The BJP is the one that goes around boasting and making all these tall claims. Now tell me, how is it that a nuclear armed power cowers and crushes the rights of one of its own citizens in response to a mere diplomatic protest? Where is all this Vishwaguru, Atmanirbhar Bharat, all that balderdash?
In the Atmanirbhar Bharat, India doesn't have a proper data center. India doesn't have proper apps. They don't have the app stores. They don't have the Google Play stores. They don't own anything. So where is the innovation in India is actually heading to? They don't own anything. So everything is American. So what is Atmanirbharta there?
It's nothing. It's just a political slogan. See, if you remember, there were a lot of slogans. There used to be Garibay Hatao, remove poverty, which Indira Gandhi used to use. Did poverty go? No. There used to be self-reliance, which was the predecessor of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Did India become self-reliant? No. So we're used to con men going on concocting slogans in lieu of action. And this is something, you really have to blame Indians. Indians aren't just used as a condom. They are, in fact, the biggest condoms around. Because if you fall for stories like this, then, you deserve to be called Jurexistan.
So you are in Italy, and the wheat from India plays a major role in their pasta. So do you think they are facing shortage of wheat because India is banned?
No. They're fine. They grow their own wheat. They grow fantastic wheat out here because, it can only be made with a certain kind of durum wheat, the really good stuff. The cheap stuff, it comes from wherever. And look, this is the least of Italy's concerns, especially because Italy's rich. Never forget that.
Olive oil, you can't use in cooking. It has to use cold. You cannot
Well, all the good stuff in it, if you heat it up, all the good stuff in it evaporates. So, every time I see cooks going, oh, you need to use heat up extra virgin olive, I'm going there looking. I've seen so many of these so-called celebrity chefs in America doing it. And I'm looking at them going, do you want me to shove a pineapple up your rectum? Because honestly, shoving a pineapple up your rectum is a higher form of culinary art than heating up olive oil to the point where all its properties are lost.
Now, let me give you some creative idea. Okay, why don't you ask them to make their pasta in either mustard oil or sesame oil? What do you think?
I keep trying to do that. I never tell them. See, the problem is they're fine with things which they can taste, which they can't tell. But the moment you tell them what you've done, they're like, they're worse than the most fundamentalist Muslim. Look, I can honestly tell you the most regressive reaction to blaspheming the Prophet Muhammad is less than the reaction of an Italian to when you muck around with their food. You try putting onion or garlic in a sauce for amatriciana. What they'll do to Italy is worse than what ISIS or Al-Qaeda will do to you. Okay, remember, tradition is more important to an Italian than rules are to Germans. Okay, so they'll tell you call it whatever you want. Call it Amatriciana alla India or Indiciana or something like that. But don't call it Amatriciana. And everything, of course, their mother only makes best.
I owned once a very expensive Italian car, and I sold it off because it used to break all the time.
Yeah,
And
it does. I don't think people realize what the failure rate of Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and things like that are. Almost every week, you're going to be stuck at some kind of this thing. I remember about 12, 13 years back, I had rented out a Ferrari. What was it? It was the Grand Tourer. Anyway, I rented it out and I was like super happy that, yay, I'm finally driving a Ferrari and whatever.
then I had to
Horrible.
horrible.
Horrible. I drove from, I rented it out in Milan, and then I drove to the Ligurian coast. And first, it broke down almost 2/3 of the way. Thankfully, because it was a rented car, they came and whatever. Then I went and I'd booked a hotel. Where was it? In Sestri Levante or something like that. And the next morning, when I was trying to start it, again, it won't start. The problems on those cars just keep compounding. And I don't think people realize that when you get a Lamborghini in, say, a country like India, or if you're going to drive it in traffic, even in Italy, it'll catch fire because it's meant to be driven at extremely high speeds where there's a huge amount of air flowing through the intakes and cooling it. They're horrible cars. I'd any day prefer, but even German cars, they're thoroughly unreliable these days. You're just much better off buying a Japanese car than you are a crappy little German or Italian. They're fantastically engineered, but they're completely over-engineered. What's the point of having, it's like having an F-16 in your garage when you don't know head or tail of how to service it or fix it.
Once I got a Italian car and I told them, isko Bholenath ke Trishul pe dalo aur isko phek do kahin pe jaake. So I literally took my expensive car.
So you had a Maserati, basically.
I had put it in a very expensive model I had. I took the best one and put it in front of the dealer. I said, put it and send it to Kashi for initiation.
Yes.
And the second time, so last 20 years, I've been driving the 3-star and never had a problem. Smooth like 20 years. It's been like no issues there.
Maybe Mercedes in America, but I can tell you Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Range Rover, Jaguar, all of these cars.
Jaguar, I will not trust my life with Jaguar. Jaguar is a US.
No, all of them are shit in India. Without exception, all of them are shit in India. I would really recommend if people wanted to go buy a car, you need to look not at the YouTube reviews. You need to go ask your insurer about the reliability and breakdown rates.
Actually,
and I think you'll find that it's the cheaper cars that are the most reliable, and it's the expensive cars that are the least reliable because there's so much more electronics in it that the probability of failure is much higher.
Now, coming to the, we discussed Italian cars, we discussed all those things now, and Royal Enfield. For the first time, I saw in Italy, Rome is one of the best-selling bikes over there today. Royal Enfield Classic as well as Royal Enfield Interceptor, #1 brand. Siddharth Lal was all over the place. When he came to San Diego, he was telling me sales figures in Italy. He said, I was shocked. It has crossed the UK sales also. Did you see them anywhere?
I haven't seen them yet. But look, Italy is very proud of its motoring heritage, right? But even in Italy, it's not very common to see a Ferrari. They buy common sense cars like the Fiat Cinquecento and things like that. A lot of them buy Japanese cars, or they buy Seat or Skoda or Volkswagen. And if they're bikes, they'll buy Aprilia, the little very cute, sweet scooters, which are extremely reliable and extremely eco-friendly, or a Ducati and things like that, which are again extremely reliable, rather than go in for a foreign brand or something expensive, which is why in Italy, finding these things, it's quite rare to see.
If you're in Rome, check around.
It doesn't matter. Even in the poshest parts, you'll find that Italians are a very practical people. Their over-engineered crap, they mostly export. They're really smart people. It's like America, everything that's rotten about America gets exported abroad, like female mud wrestling, that great American institution, naked female mud wrestling. Yeah.
So one last question. Okay, we discussed I know your passion for cars. That's why spoke about it. Now I'm knowing more about you through other places. So that's why.
I'm passionate about practicality. I'm not passionate about cars. I'm passionate about the rear seat, where you can keep beating up your driver if he doesn't drive correctly, and it should absorb bumps very well. And all the gizmos should be for the back seat, not for the front seat.
Anyway, we have a different saying in Banarasi. I won't quote it here on this channel. But you get it. So now coming to back to the industry on arms, because Italian guns are considered to be very reliable. Do Italians have the right to own them, or they're still like a European socialist nation?
No bloody way you're allowed to even touch them. Look, I think Europe, except Switzerland, is very united in this. Okay, no damn guns. The state monopoly on violence is absolute. They will never dilute the state's monopoly on violence. Switzerland is the only country that's different, that gives every male citizen is required to own a gun. But remember, you don't have large school shootings. What you have instead in Switzerland is an extremely high suicide rate by gun. And remember, that's because the Swiss work environment is an extremely oppressive work environment.
So by American standards, Italy is not a free society where they can't own guns.
Yes, correct. By my standards, it's an extremely free society, much more so than German society also, because in Germany, if you break a rule, there's no shades of gray about it. You've broken the rule and the law will be applied to you. In Italy, you can just keep breaking the rules. And if you get caught by the police, if you prove that what you did was actually practical to that situation, you can actually argue with the policeman and talk your way out of things. Not bribe. In India, you have to bribe your way out of things. In Italy, you just talk your way out of things.
Does the Italian lira is stronger enough with the
Euro? They don't have liras.
They don't have liras now, right? That's right. I'm stuck in the past. So I have finished all my questions. Anyone, audience has a question for him? Okay. The audience question is, why are you not wearing yellow? Because the background is yellow. Why are you not wearing yellow?
That's exactly why I'm not wearing yellow.
Okay.
I never like to blend into the background.
I always say foolish questions deserve foolish answers. So that's why you got it. So thank you for asking. And is Buddha famous there? That's another question came in. Is Buddha famous?
Yeah, there's lots of Buddhists here, because remember that famous soccer player? What was his name? Roberto Baggio. Who was he? I remember he used to be a very famous football player, soccer. For all us, for all you Americans, it's soccer. Soccer is football. There is what you play is not football. Okay, what you call soccer is football. What you play is something weird, barbarian. I don't know. It's tomahawk hunting, running the gauntlet kind of.
It's a gladiator show.
Blood sport. Yes, it's a gladiator show. It's not football. What they play here is football. And he was Buddhist. Hey, wasn't Roberto Baggio Buddhist? Yes, he was the famous footballer. No? Yeah. So he was the famous footballer who was Buddhist, which is why there's lots of Buddhists and lots of free Tibet associations and things like that out here. So now it's all been replaced by Ukraine, but hey, they used to be quite popular. Yeah.
I can transfer all the foolish questions to the audience. Okay. So the asking is, did Pope Abhijit meet the Pope Francis, whoever is the Pope right now? The Pope Abhijit is meeting the Pope Francis or not?
No, see, I can't meet Pope Francis because I fundamentally disagree with the vernacularization of the Mass. I believe in the old trilingual dogma where only Hebrew, Greek, and Latin are the real true Catholic credo. And I think any Pope that presides over a vernacular liturgy must be excommunicated.
I mean, have they accepted the Argentinian Pope sitting in Vatican? Have they accepted the Argentinian Pope here? Yes.
Look, there's no nationality here. Okay. First of all, remember, Europe is very globalized in its mindset. And second, as long as you come to Italy and speak Italian and talk like an Italian, and you're Italian.
So, do they know something about Sonia Gandhi? What their ilk is doing in India? Nothing. They have no idea.
Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives
all right.
a shit.
Okay. So just a minute. So one last question we have coming from the audience again is did Italy ever regret its past in the World War II? Or they do they teach the history or no?
Yeah, but I mean, nobody takes it seriously out here. It's like they like to lead a good life, right? Even then, if you remember, it was very different. There's no comparing what happened here to what happened up north or up far east, right? It was just qualitatively different. So it's like they like to live life here, like beautiful people, beautiful wine, beautiful food.
Thank you, Abhijit, for your time. And Americans, you need to step up your question game, watch his other videos so that you can ask him more complex questions. And he gives very funny answers, and he'll make you laugh too. Thank you, Abhijit, for coming on the show. And I'll see you again by next week. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.